At the height of the migrant crisis in Del Rio, our next guest wrote to President Biden seeking an emergency declaration for his state. Joining us now from Austin, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, Chris.
You just heard my conversation with Secretary Mayorkas. Your reaction?
Listen, Secretary Mayorkas and, if I could be candid, even President Biden, they are in dereliction of duty. Listen, he talked about the laws they were trying to apply. The United States Constitution itself requires that the president and the federal government secure the sovereignty of the United States of America, including the states in the United States of America. And the Biden administration has abandoned any pretense of securing the sovereignty of either Texas or the United States by having these open border policies that you so well articulated. They have created a magnet that led to these massive groups of Haitians as well as the other groups that are coming here for one reason, and that's because they have sent a message and a signal to the entire world that they are not going to secure the border. They're going to allow them across. You talked to Secretary Mayorkas, repeatedly asking him why they did not stop the Haitians from coming across the border in the first place. Chris, everyone knew, including the Biden administration, the Haitians had gathered on the Mexican side of the border before they crossed, and the Biden administration did nothing to stop those Haitians who had gathered en masse in Mexico from coming across the border.
So, Governor, let me ask you about what you're trying to do. You have set up what you call Operation Lone Star in Texas, and let's take a look at some of the measures. The Texas legislature has approved almost $3 billion for border security, including building a wall. You've surged thousands of state personnel, including National Guard, to work with local law enforcement. Governor, are you, in effect, taking over immigration policy for the state of Texas?
I will give you the words of Border Patrol agents themselves in Del Rio when they said that the surge of migrants across the border was stopped only when the Texas Department of Public Safety and the National Guard showed up to provide a steel barrier to prevent the migrants from coming across. As soon as the National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety showed up, literally with hundreds, if not thousands of vehicles, that is when the illegal migration stopped. That's exactly what the Biden administration could do if they wanted to. But, Chris, it's the kind of thing that Texas is going to have to continue to do in addition to the other policies that you did not announce. And that is, as opposed to catch and release, Texas has imposed a policy where we are going to arrest and jail people who are coming across the border for trespassing into areas into the state of Texas.
Well, let me ask you, because in your first answer you said that under the Constitution the president has a responsibility to protect the sovereignty of this country. And I know you're a strict constitutionalist, but the Constitution is pretty clear, and so has the Supreme Court in repeated rulings, that it is the federal government, whether it does it or not, it's the federal government that has responsibility for immigration laws. And in fact, the U.S. Attorney General, Merrick Garland, has written to you and threatened to sue, arguing that you and your state are overstepping your authority.
Because the Biden administration is refusing to do its duty to enforce the laws of the United States, they have left Texas in no position other than for us to step up and do what we have to do. You know, you mentioned the people in Del Rio and the way that Del Rio was overrun by a population about the same size of Del Rio that had been coming across the border illegally. As governor, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to step up and do whatever I have to do to make sure that I protect the people of Del Rio, as well as all these other communities in the state of Texas that the Biden administration is ignoring. The people in South Texas, they are angry about the Biden administration for ignoring them, for abandoning them. The Biden administration cares far more about people who are not in this country than he does the people, American citizens who live in this country. And I'm going to step up and support the citizens of the United States of America.
A number of people have been, Democrats especially, have expressed outrage over those Border Patrol officers on horseback who were at the border and seemed to be trying to block Haitians pretty aggressively from coming across the border. Here was President Biden on all of that this week.
It was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you those people will pay. They will be, an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences.
Governor, even if you think that those officers are being scapegoated, are you at all troubled by the images of these officers on horseback very aggressively pushing back on the Haitian immigrants coming across?
Several quick points. First, they wouldn't have been in that situation had the Biden administration enforced the immigration laws and secured the border in the first place. Second, as you know, Chris, the person who took those pictures said that the characterization that the Democrats have made about the Border Patrol using them as whips, whipping people coming across the border is false. They were simply maneuvering horses. But the last thing I will tell you is what the president said going after the Border Patrol, who were risking their lives and working so hard to try to secure the border, if he takes any action against them whatsoever. I have worked side by side with those Border Patrol agents. I want them to know something. If they are at risk of losing their job at a president who is abandoning his duty to secure the border, you have a job in the state of Texas. I will hire you to help Texas secure our border.
Governor, in the time we have left, I want to ask you about two other questions. You signed a law in May that bans abortion after a fetal heartbeat can be detected around 6 weeks. And there is no exception in that law for either rape or incest. Here's what you said when you signed the law.
Goal number one in the state of Texas is to eliminate rape so that no woman, no person will be a victim of rape.
Now, in 2019, which is the last year that we have numbers for, almost 15,000 cases of rape were reported in your state of Texas, and almost everyone says that that's a severe undercount. There are a lot more cases that just aren't reported. Is it reasonable to say to somebody who is the victim of rape and might not understand that they are pregnant, until 6 weeks, well, don't worry about it because we're going to eliminate rape as a problem in the state of Texas?
Well, there's multiple things I have to say in answer to this, but the first thing, obviously, is that survivors of sexual assault, they deserve support, care, and compassion. And Texas is stepping up to make sure that we provide that by signing a law and creating in the governor's office a sexual assault survivors task force. But separately from that, Chris, I got to point out about the ways that I have fought to to arrest and apprehend and try to eliminate rape. I sought the death penalty.
Governor, excuse me, because we are running out of time. There were more than 15,000 rapes in 2019 when you were governor. Let me just ask this question. A state representative, Republican state representative, says that he's going to offer a new measure that would restore the exception to the Texas abortion law for victims of rape and incest. If that came to your desk, will you sign it or not?
Well, we got to go back, Chris, to what the reason was why the law was passed in the first place. And the goal is to protect the lives of every child with a heartbeat. And so we're working to achieve that goal. Chris, I got to point this out,
including
Chris,
the child of a rape.
This goal is consistent with what the United States Supreme Court has written, and that is states have the ability to make sure that we protect the health and safety of both the mother and the child, and that's what we are seeking to do here. And I have to add this, and that is Texas just provided more than $100 million in funding for pregnancy centers across the state of Texas to help those who want to make sure that they will be able to carry a child.
Just to lock this down, are you saying, sir, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you saying that you will not sign an exception for rape and incest?
Well, first, I got to tell you, Chris, you're making a hypothetical that it's not going to happen because that bill is not going to reach my desk. But second, again, the goal is to protect the life of every child with a heartbeat.
Let me, finally, this week, former President Trump sent you an open letter asking for an audit of the 2020 presidential election in the state of Texas, which we should note he won by about 600,000 votes. Within hours, the Secretary of State of Texas, an office that you appoint, agreed and has ordered audits in 4 of Texas's biggest counties. A couple of questions. One, isn't it just a terrible waste of taxpayer money to have an audit in a state that everybody says went fine and that President Trump won by 600,000 votes? And aren't you contributing to this undermining confidence in our election process?
I got to make several points about this. One, the context here, and that is there are audits of every aspect of government. We have a state auditor. There's a federal auditor for the way that government operations work. Businesses that are public companies are subject to an annual audit. Why do we audit everything in this world, but people raise their hands in concern when we audit elections, which is fundamental to our democracy? Second point, and that is that these audits that the state of Texas is doing, they actually began months ago because the Secretary of State of Texas has an obligation to make sure that we do conduct audits in the state of Texas, and they have to be done in a way before any evidence about it would be eliminated, which will be next September. And so those audits were already underway. The last point is this, and that is Donald Trump won the state of Texas. We know regardless of the outcome of these audits, Donald Trump will still have won the state of Texas. However, we do have every single year, including in the 2020 elections, allegations of illegal voting in places in the state of Texas. We have a responsibility to ensure the integrity and confidence in the elections in the state of Texas.
He asked for the audit, and suddenly there were new audits announced by in 4 counties by the Secretary of State's office within hours of that on Thursday. Governor Abbott, thank you. Thanks for talking with us today. Always good to talk with you, and we'll be watching to see what happens next on the border.
Thank you.